We've started this week already talking a little bit about compound sentences through sentence analysis, but I want you today to work on taking some notes just to make sure that we're clear on definitions. So you're going to find in your notebook, and it should be in the very back of your journal, back where we do sentence analysis. If you are in class, then we glued it back there together. If you're in my online class, I sent it home, and you'll need to print it off. If you don't have it printed off, you can easily copy these notes down by hand. And we've had to do that several times already. So before we start talking about what is a compound sentence, we need to do just a quick review of the different parts of sentences that we build together to make different types of sentences. So what is a phrase? We've talked about different types of phrase, but what is a phrase really? A phrase is a group of words without both a subject and a verb. Now if you need to take notes, and I'm going too fast, you can pause the screencast and then go back and add and pause and then start it again when you're ready to move on. So we've talked about 3 different kinds of phrases. We always look at prepositional phrases first. And a prepositional phrase is a preposition plus modifiers, if we have them, and there has to be a noun or a pronoun at the end. Notice again, there's no verb in them. You might see a noun that might look like the subject, but there's no verb. It doesn't have both. An infinitive phrase is to plus a verb. And we've also talked about how sometimes there might be a complement that comes after the verb, like a direct object or a predicate noun. And that all makes up the infinitive phrase. And then we've talked about appositive phrases, and that's a noun followed by a comma that has another noun that renames it and gives some description about him. And we see this a lot in literature, especially at the beginnings of books. Characters are introduced with appositives because it's a good way to give descriptive information. So if a phrase is a group of words without both a subject and a verb, a clause is a group of words with both a subject and a verb. And the only kind of clause we've talked about so far is an independent clause. And we've talked about it in the context of building sentences. So a simple sentence is one independent clause. It could have one subject and one verb. Mrs. Culleton ran. It could have 2 subjects and one verb. Mrs. Culleton and her dog ran. It could have one subject with 2 verbs. Mrs. Culleton ran and fell. Or it could have 2 subjects and 2 verbs doing those same actions. Mrs. Culleton and her dog ran and fell. Okay, and then we add phrases within there to make the sentences more descriptive. But when we only see one pairing of a subject and a verb, that's an independent clause. And if we only find one of those pairings and one independent clause, then we have a simple sentence. When we have a compound sentence, we're putting together 2 of those independent clauses. And we have some special punctuation that we need to take a look at. So I'm going to give you 2 new formulas today. The first one is subject plus verb, and then a comma conjunction, and then another subject and verb. Or we might also call this an independent clause, and then a comma coordinating conjunction, and an independent clause. Okay? And so when we work on these together in class, I always have you circle that comma conjunction. We could also have a subject and a verb separated by a semicolon. In that case, we don't need a conjunction. The semicolon does the job of both the comma and the coordinating conjunction. So we have some coordinating conjunctions known as the FANBOYS. I want you to write them down. For, and we have to watch this one because sometimes it can be a preposition. We'll know if it's a conjunction if it's between 2 words or 2 phrases or 2 clauses. And, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And one thing to keep in mind about these coordinating conjunctions is that they are not allowed to be at the beginnings of sentences when they're used as coordinating conjunctions because by name, their job is to join things together by definition. So let's take a look at a sentence. I have the same sentence here, and what I want you to do is label it as I go through it. It says, Mrs. Culleton, my English teacher, is short, and she likes to eat apple pie for breakfast. So what we've been doing is going through and eliminating phrases. So we highlight prepositional phrases. We look for infinitives, to plus a verb. And then we can see there's a complement to eat what? To eat apple pie. So that apple pie becomes part of that infinitive phrase. we look for appositives. Teacher renames Mrs. Culleton, and it follows the name with a comma. So we eliminate all those things, and we're left with Mrs. Culleton is short, and she likes. So I see here a coordinating conjunction with a comma, so I circle it, and that's the first indication that I might have a compound sentence. In order to prove that it's a compound sentence, though, I have to find a subject and a verb on the left side, and I have to find a subject and a verb on the right side. So if I look over here, Mrs. Culleton is short. Mrs. Culleton is a subject, and is a verb, so we've got an independent clause on this side. Now we look on the other side. She likes. She is a subject, and likes is the verb. So we have an independent clause on the left side and an independent clause on the right side of our comma conjunction. That means we have a compound sentence. And the same would be true down here. It's the same sentence, but in place of the comma and, I've got a semicolon. Right? And you'll notice that there's no and. The semicolon takes the place of both the comma and the conjunction. So that is a compound sentence in a nutshell. We'll continue working on these over the course of the next couple weeks, but make sure you have some good notes and start learning some of these terms.